Hi everyone, so today I want to show you how I made this card. Now I'm calling this a 5x7 POP shutter card, pop shutter card, and the POP stands for pop out panel. So it's a 5x7 pop out panel shutter card. And I've got this, I had this idea because I saw this exact card on Pinterest, and I will put on the screen who I saw do it. I'm sure it's just a it's just a standard shutter card. But I saw someone on Pinterest do it and it looked amazing. I love the way they decorated it. So I've actually decorated mine in the same kind of way that they've done theirs. My measurements are a bit different. All I saw was a picture for them. I didn't actually see like a blog measurements tutorial or whatever. So I've kind of worked out my own measurements for 5x7. So mine are slightly differently because I think hers are theirs was slightly thinner at the top. But yeah, so I've used, the papers I've used for this are my Pansy Petals Paper Pad, which is available as a digital kit over on DRK Crafts. It's also available as a PDF digital kit in my Ko-fi store, and it is also available as a paper pad over on Amazon. So you get the 8.5 by 8.5 and the A4. So that's the pad I'm using. And then you've got space on the back to write. Now the back of it doesn't look that attractive, and you could, if you wanted to, as I mentioned in the video, you could put it inside a 5x7 card blank, but I quite like it as a shutter, like with the bits you can kind of see through. I quite like it like that. I added this extra strut on here just for stability. You don't need to have that if you don't want to, but it does fall backwards if you don't have that on. But yeah, so that is the card. So I have worked out that this can be decorated and done in 4 different ways. So this is version 1. This is part 1. There will be more coming of this. So you'll see another three more episodes to come for this fold. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so for this card you're going to need one piece that is 7x10. If you've got a 5x7 card blank, you can go ahead and use that. Just make sure that it is actually 5x7, because sometimes they're slightly smaller. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to come along the top section here, and we are just going to make a mark at 1 1/4, 2 1/2, 4 1/2, and 5 3/4, and I'm going to do the same along the bottom. And obviously you're not really going to be able to see my marks that well, but just know that they are there, and you will see them in a bit when I start scoring and cutting. And then I'm going to turn this round, and along the top I'm just going to mark at 2 1/2, 5 inches, although mine's already scored, and then at 7 1/2. And I'm actually going to come down to that first mark that we've just done. So the first mark that was at 1 1/4, I'm going to line those 2 marks up and also just go 1 1/2, obviously 5, and then 7 1/2. And then I'm going to come down to the next line, which is the 2 1/2 mark, and we want to mark at 3 1/2 and 6 1/2. Then the next line down we want to do the same again, and the reason why we're doing this is because it's a shutter card, so parts are scored, parts are not, parts are cut, parts are not, and so it just makes it easy. If you can do it this way round, then you're not going to over cut or over score or underscore or undercut. So it just makes it a bit easier. So we're going to come along here and we're going to do the same again here. So 2 1/2, 5, 7 1/2. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is come along with a craft knife and a metal ruler, and where I put those marks just now, I'm going to cut between. So I've got a mark here at 2 1/2 and a mark here at 7 1/2, and it's on the 1 1/4 line. So I'm just going to mark from that first dot across to the second dot. Like that. And then the next one down again, I'm just going to cut between those 2 marks. And then the same on this one down. So I'm just literally going down the card, cutting between the 2 marks that I've just done on each of those levels. So now you can see where all of my marks were. Okay, so that's what you should end up with, hopefully. So now we can go ahead and score. So I prefer to do the cut lines first and then score, because then I can see where my score lines need to be. And particularly on my scoreboard, where I've got ridges, I can kind of find the ridge because I know where it needs to be. So I can kind of just get my score tool in and sort that out. So it just makes it a bit easier. Right, so I've brought my scoreboard back in. So at 2.5, we're going to score down and we're going to stop as soon as we get to the cut line. And then we're going to come from the bottom up and stop at the cut line. And then at 5 inches, you want to go all the way top to bottom. At 7.5, again, just the top down to the cut line and up from the bottom and stop at the cut line. So again here, I've ever so slightly overcut, but that's fine. Now with this like this, what we want to do is we want to score at 3.5 and at 6.5. So this is where this line kind of comes in, because I know roughly where that's going to be. I can kind of get my score tool and just sort of dig it in and find the ridge through the card. This is another reason why you don't really want anything too thick as far as card goes. And so we're going to do the same there and then also here. So you end up with that. So you've got all your score lines. And so that just means it just makes it a little bit easier to do. So then what we're going to do is go ahead and fold. So we want a valley here, and then a mountain, and then a valley, and the same at the bottom. And then the same with this one, valley, mountain, valley, and I'm just kind of just slightly creasing it. I'm not properly burnishing and whatever just yet. I'm just kind of tweaking to get it in the right place. So you've got that, and then once you've got that, you can then go ahead and kind of fold it all down, and just make sure that when you're folding it down, it's all kind of folding in the right way and it's not going squiffy. So I'm just going to come in here, make sure that's straight, make sure that's straight. I've got a little bit of an over fold, but it's fine. And then we're going to burnish all of our score lines. Give them a really good burnish. If I turn this over, you'll see I've got a little bit of it's a little bit overlapped there, but that's fine. So you should end up with your card looking like that. Now if you want to, you could stick this inside a 5x7 card blank. So you'd have a full 5x7. But I kind of want to do something a bit different to that. So it's going to be that way up, like that. But when it stands up, it's okay, but it can fall backwards a little bit. It can want to fall back a bit because there's no support here. So for that reason, I've got another piece here, which is 1 1/4 by 10, and I'm just going to score that in half at 5 inches. I'm not even going to bother opening my scoreboard properly. I'm just going to literally just put it on, score it in half at 5 inches, and then I'm just going to put that at the back, and it will just act as an extra little strut, but then you still get that kind of shutter card feel without everything falling over. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick that onto the back there, like that. And I'm going to stick it down with it shut like that, so then I know it's going to fold flat in the envelope. So I'm going to go ahead now and just stick that down. So that's what it looks like. If you wanted to make it even, you could go ahead and put that at the top as well. But it just means then it stands up nicely. It's not going to fall down. It's not going to do anything silly. Yeah, I just think it works better. Okay, so then we need to decorate. Now, you can decorate different ways. So the ways I'm decorating is the same way that I saw on Pinterest. But obviously you could do different. You could do big strips going down here, and then these are all different. Yeah, there's all sorts you can do. So I am going to decorate. The way I'm going to decorate, I've got these pieces here, which are for here. So let me start with these along the top. So in total, I've got 8 pieces that are of mat that are 1 inch by 2 1/4, and 8 pieces of pattern that are 3/4 by 2, and these are all going to go along this top section here, like that, and also along this bottom section here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick all of these down. Okay, so I've gone ahead and stuck that on. Halfway through I realised that I'd actually cut 4 of these, and I deliberately lined them up so they all went in a row. So there's a slight difference between the spots, but anyway, never mind, whatever. So I've just made it symmetrical instead. Then for these pieces here, you need 4 pieces of mat that are 1 inch by 1 1/4, and 4 pieces of pattern that are 3/4 of an inch by 1. And these are also landscape, and these are going to go on here. So I'm going to go ahead now and stick those down. Okay, so you should end up with that. So now I'm going to do these little pieces here. So you've got 2 pieces of mat that are 1 3/4 by 1 1/4, and 2 pieces of pattern that are 1 1/2 by 1. So these are obviously portrait. So these are going to go in there. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those down. Okay, so I've stuck that on there. So now we just need to deal with these big pieces here. So for these big pieces, I've got 2 pieces of mat that are 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and 2 pieces of pattern that are 3 by 4. So these are going to go on to here like that. Okay, so you should end up with that hopefully. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put my piece on the side here so I can write my message. So that is going to go on there like that. Okay, so you've got that on the back. Now obviously I think this looks a bit unattractive, but obviously this isn't the main bit, that's the main bit. This is the back of the card. So yeah, so I can see arguments for having a 5x7 card blank on it, but I'm not that bothered about it, to be honest with you, because as I said, that's the back of the card, so you're not going to see that. That's the bit you're going to see, which looks great. So yeah, so as I said, if you really don't like this, then maybe another strut here might help, but you know, it doesn't really do anything, so it's literally cosmetic if you do. This is functional. It doesn't look nice, but it is functional. So anyway, yeah, that's how it is. So then I've cut out some of these little butterflies, which are part of come with the pad itself, and I've also cut a greeting out. So I'm going to head, I'm going to add my greeting on here, and then I think the butterflies I'm just going to put sort of coming off these little struts. So I'm going to go ahead now and stick all of those down. Okay, so there's your finished card. So I quite like the way it's turned out actually. You could put something here if you wanted to, but I don't mind having that space as it is because you know the papers are quite busy, and I quite like the butterflies. So I'm quite pleased with the way that's turned out. Obviously it now stands nicely on your desk or your mantelpiece because of that extra strut. But yeah, and obviously it folds down flat like that, and it will fit in an envelope for a 5x7 card. So yes, I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to go and check out my digital kit for this Pansy Petals, which is over on DRK Crafts. I've also got it as a PDF digital kit over on my Ko-fi shop. If you prefer papers and you don't want to have to print them off yourself, it is available on Amazon as a paper pad in an 8.5 by 8.5 and also as an A4. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!